could solve all the problems in like one hit.
I'm not sure we could, not in the way that they'd like us to anyway.
No,
I
probably
think
not.
we may possibly be live right now. That's so funny.
Yes, we are.
Yes,
We are live. So guys, we're laughing because we almost went live in the United Nations group.
I reckon we could run the United Nations. I mean, come on. We could do that. Easy. Easy.
Communication would be our main
I was
feature.
on the...
Absolutely. Oh, he's gone.
Oh, he's gone, he's gone.
No, I'm still here. I'm still here.
Still there, driving away as he does. So, welcome Rebels and Rule Breakers to our July Master Rebel Rendezvous. We weren't with you in June. Apologies for that. The month just ran away from us. But we're here now, minus MK, unless MK drops in later potentially, but they're doing other times.
While we're on. Is he? He is. He is. He's gonna be golfing.
He is. He's at the bloody driving range. Look at him. He thinks he's.
He can still talk.
I was going to say, you've got to give him dues though, because he's got us in his ear while he's trying to swing his club.
Let's see how much we can put him off.
Notice how he switches his video off though, so we can't see how bad
No.
he's doing.
No, I am. I'm actually just. When you arrive, you've got to like book in. So I'm just booking in.
Oh, okay, sure. Just get them invited into the Rebels group while you're at it, right?
Anybody who wants to join Rebels, just give me a shout.
You might win a prize, Dave. You might win a prize.
There you go, Mr. Prize. So first of all, I can see that we have got currently Alison, Darby. Alison, how are you healing, sweet pea? Are you out of hospital yet? And Nadia. Now, Nadia, you are an inspiration for our topic tonight, actually. Something that you shared with us has given us a key topic to discuss this evening. And I'm going to just drive. That's Dave doing his golfing. Say that. I'm going to just dive straight in with it. So we were talking about what's our topic for tonight going to be, and the general theme. 3. The general theme seemed to be very much around this pressure to it's a key theme for the Rebels and Rule Breakers anyway, this pressure around not being free to be yourself. And Nadia put in a quote by a guy called Gary Snyder, who was a poet and environmental activist and lecturer and many other things by the looks of it. And it said this, it said, what does free mean? Free means being, for one thing. It means being able to outgrow that knee-jerk reflection of what your human society around you wants you to think. And so free means thinking for yourself and not accepting every piece of information or something or other heedlessly. I don't know what I've written there because it's my scribbly writing, which I think is a really, really wonderful concept for Rebels. Now, there's another quote here I'd like to give you, and that is to never accept the status quo just because the status quo is to accept. Now, who do you think said that? Who's that quote from?
Is that an Oscar Wilde quote?
I'm glad you think that. A bit closer to home.
They're still alive.
Very much still alive.
Is it one of our rebels?
It is one of our rebels. Guess which one?
Would it be
you?
Stephen of Whitton? Was it you? Oh, that's an next one.
She's still alive, you know, Oscar Wilde.
I just love that. That's brilliant. Oh, do you know what's even funnier than the fact that I forgot to hit record on this, but never mind, I can pull it from the Facebook group.
All right,
that's a quote that I came up with just months and months ago, and it's actually now live on the website. So that generally that is one of the kind of ethoses of Rebels and Rule Breakers, to never accept the status quo just because the status quo is to accept. Now, if the status quo is fine and is empowering and does all the things it needs to do, then fine. It's not about raging against the status quo just because. It's about not being sucked into it, just as the Gary Snyder quote says, heedlessly and without your own thinking entering into the concept. So I'm going to open up, guys, to what your thoughts are on this topic and what that means to you.
It's about being comfortable with what status quo means to you as well, because your own status quo might not be somebody else's status quo. And we go back to that thing, don't we, of what's normal and acceptable. And that seems to be choosing the path that the majority of people choose. You think, well, if lots of people are doing it, well, it must be right. There must be onto something there. And feeling free to. So I was sat at the weekend watching sheep. Random thing, glass of wine, watching sheep.
Love
and they were
that.
all doing what sheep do, following down this path and then eating the grass, and following again. And then there was this one sheep that just kind of looked up to where we were sitting, looked at a pack of sheep friends, and just toddled off. I was like, that's the sheep I want to be, because it was like, oh, I'm a bit bored here. Let's go and see what's new and shiny over the other side. But then the others followed.
Kudos to that sheep.
But weirdly, I thought, is that then creating a new status quo because the rest of them followed that sheep?
It's a bit like that first follower video, isn't it?
Hmm.
You know, where there's the crazy dancing guy that's at a rave festival thing, and he's dancing on his own and he's going really mad for it, and everyone's like looking at him like, what a weirdo. And then someone else joins in. And the next thing you know, the whole entire crowd joins in. But it's that sometimes it's not the first person that steps out. It's the person that follows that actually starts to create the critical mass. And I have a sense that this is sort of happening with the Rebels thing a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, it's that sort of, oh, well, maybe if somebody is being themselves, maybe it makes it feel a bit safer for me to be myself as well. And that creates a world that's surely much more enriched than if we're trying to conform.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, here we go. He's showing off now with his new club.
Swinging it round soon. I think so. One of the things that struck me, and I always go back to this, and you're probably sick of hearing me say it, but age really does matter. I think you become much more comfortable yourself. I am now in my 40s. And I'm very much not kind of a, oh, look, everybody, I don't care what they think. Yeah, I care what people think, but not to the detriment of doing something that's out of character for me, of actually feeling comfortable of going, no, because this is what I want to say in a loving way, and this is who I want to be, and that's okay, as long as I'm always being kind and respectful to people. But I think the 10 years me, the one just going into my 30s, would be like, oh God, no, because the people hate it and they won't like me, and then I'll be ostracized and all of that. Whereas now I'm just like, well, actually, if you don't respect me as a person, and I don't need you in my life. So I think age is a massive part of the status quo piece.
You're so right. And Sarah Brandwood put in a comment that's very much links to that, or put in a meme the other day that said, don't be afraid of losing people, be afraid of losing yourself by trying to please everyone around you.
Yeah, for me, I think it's different things that happen through different phases of your life. So one of the things for me was that as we were leaving college, my group of friends were all going up to university. I was the only one that didn't, and I always felt, was I doing the right thing? Because all of them were going to university. Was I the one that was making the daft decision by not? And if you ask me that now, I'll tell you 100% it's the best decision I ever made. At the time, I don't think I was in the right place. I could do university now if I wanted to. I think I have the confidence to do it. I don't want to, but I could. Whereas at the time, I don't think that I was mentally mature enough to be able to handle it. So I think it was the right thing for me. And then I think it's similar to when your friends all start to get married and have children. And it's that pressure that society puts on, that everybody expects you to get married and have children. One of my friends is very much I don't want children. It just doesn't suit me at all. It's not something I want. And I think it's awesome that she's got that independence and courage to be able to say, I'm not going to go with the norm, I'm not going to go with the status quo of what society expects.
I want to ask you.
Go on.
Well, I want to ask you a question about that. What helped you kind of not fall in line, I guess. But before we do that, Andrew Scarisbrick wants us to do a Mexican wave.
It depends what order we're in on their screen.
It's me, Lisa, you, Dave. Dave, you ready for a Mexican wave?
Yes.
Okay, come closer to the camera.
Right, so
Okay.
Emma, Lisa, me and Dave, right, okay.
Yeah, you ready?
Hey! This is not going to turn into a dance monkey dance. I'm going to request something you did live on the screen. No, Andrew, no.
He'd get us doing all sorts, wouldn't he? Andrew's also saying one sheep will follow the next. We just proved that. Nice work.
I like that.
Some good comments in as well from Nadia and Charlotte and Alison as well, where this seems to be resonating with people. So I wanted to ask you, Tracy, when you were younger and you wanted to best Mexican wave I've ever seen, thanks Nadia, and you were thinking, well, I don't know whether I should go to uni, everyone else is doing it. What is the thing, do you think, that helped you stick to your decision? What is the thing that helped you not be kind of sucked into what the rest were doing?
So a lot of it was I had no idea what I wanted to do when I grow up, and I still have no idea what I want to be when I grow up. They all kind of knew exactly what they wanted, and I admired that. And it's not like they all went and did the same thing. They all did very different things. But there wasn't anything that I felt that I would get out of university. I didn't see a career path that would need it. And I think, but my mum and dad also helped me in the fact that they were brutally honest and felt that academically I wasn't intelligent enough to go to university. And we've had conversations about it since, and they've kind of said to me, they recognise that I am intelligent in the fact that if I put my mind to something,
yeah. Well, funnily enough, before I was going to say, I don't think you give yourself credit for how absolutely clever you are. Well, being academic and being clever and intelligent.
Yeah.
So I'm not good academically.
Yeah, I hate education. It just doesn't resonate with me. If I find a topic that I love, I'll put my all into it and I can pick it up. But sitting doing maths, English assignments, it doesn't spark my interest. So uni was just
that's not intelligence either. It's a discipline of a certain kind. It's an ability to be able to do certain skills in a certain way. It's not a demonstration of your IQ.
Yeah. So so my mum and dad kind of gave me the courage, and they also were like, do you really want all that debt, or would you rather start working? And I was like, I want a car and I want a house. So I think it was, luckily I had parents that were kind of, they understood who I was and kind of guided me towards what they felt was the right thing. They wouldn't have cared less what I did, but I just knew it wasn't right for me. I was lucky enough that I was able to do that. There were other things that I wasn't confident enough that I am today, but that I just knew it wasn't right for me.
That really resonates with me, Tracy. It really does. And was that so? One of my philosophies, I've got two girls, a 20-year-old and a 5-year-old, and one of my passions is making sure they are rule breakers, they are determined and strong-willed young women. And my 20-year-old has just done a year at university, and she's turned around this summer, got a summer job. They offered her a full-time position on a fabulous wage, and she came home and said, Mum, I don't want to go back to university. It's not for me. I don't enjoy it. And we couldn't be prouder. And we are the same as your parents. We said, if that's what you want to do, you follow down that path and you'll do it. And I'm so proud that she had her own mindset because all of her friends were like, oh my God, we can't believe you're leaving and you should follow university through. And she went, well, no, it's not for me. And a couple of weeks ago, one of her friends did say, you are so brave, because I would have never had the braveness to make that decision. And my girl has, and that makes me so proud that she didn't think, I've got to stick with it for another 2 years, and I've got to get my degree. She went, actually, I want a different path. And that's
that thing as well, isn't it? Because you've started something, you've got to see it through, because otherwise you're a quitter. And you know what? If it doesn't feel right and you carry on anyway, I feel like that's quitting.
Yeah, it's quitting on you.
It's quitting your
flogging a dead horse.
Happiness. Yeah, flogging a dead horse. Charlotte is saying that she wasn't good at school because of her learning disabilities, but she got a distinction in art. And you know, this is the thing, isn't it? There are multiple kinds of intelligences out there, and there's a reason for that. If we were all good at maths or science or, you know, bricklaying or whatever, then we'd have a real problem, you know.
I actually think that there's more to creativity than intelligence. So if you think about it, intelligence really is just really good memory skill, because all you're doing is remembering facts and reiterating them. Whereas things like poetry, music, artwork, you are creating something from nothing.
Problem solving.
Unique. So for me, I think somebody that's got a flair for art gives far more to society than somebody who can, and no offense to anybody that's into math, I'm not, but you reiterating other people's theories. So I give more kudos to the artistic people in this world.
Yeah, it's interesting that, isn't it? Because like I know a lot of people who are perhaps in the more traditional disciplines, like, you know, sort of accountancy, for example, who might say, I'm not creative, but actually when it comes to using their language of numbers and putting things together and you know, that kind of logic, you can be very creative in your own way. I think we all have that ability if we get into our zone of genius. I wonder what Dave has to input on this, other than he's trying to beat his 200 and whatever yards.
I'm not using my irons.
I don't know what that means, except unless you're ironing your t-shirts at the same time.
That's very sexist. I would never have gone that far. I was never very bright at school either. I was good at English, that was about it. Everything else kind of fell out of the place.
Mm-hmm.
But
would you consider yourself creative?
I'd say I'm a problem solver.
Yeah.
I quite like poetry. Probably why I like Jack stuff so much. I'm not as good as Jack, by the way, nowhere near, but I do enjoy it.
Don't worry, we're going to ask you to turn out a performance impromptu.
But I like trying to see what the problem is and try and find a way to fix it. And however that may be, is generally how I've got through life, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say I'm academic, but I can make, I don't know, I can make people happy. That's probably my biggest thing.
Yeah,
I think that's a skill in itself.
You like that, don't you? That gives you meaning.
Massive.
So
it's a skill in itself.
How do you cope with kind of the pressure to be something that other people might want you to be?
I think when I was younger, I probably cared too much.
Mm-hmm.
Now I probably don't care at all.
It got the other way.
Yeah, I've kind of learned now that I'm just me.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, then tough.
Does that make life easier or harder?
Yeah, easier, I'd say. Less stressful.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, so I used to stress about what people thought and what if I did this and how they're thinking of me now. Now I don't. Say I don't care is probably the wrong thing. It doesn't give me sleepless nights like I would have done.
See, I think in some ways it does make your life easier, but I also think it can make it harder because you have consequences to deal with as a result.
Yeah. I think sometimes it can take up more energy, because when you're trying to be authentically yourself and you go out there and you're not in line with the status quo, you normally get so many more people coming back and going, yeah, but this, and this. And unless you step away and ignore it completely, which is not human nature, you sometimes get drawn into those conversations where it feels like because you're against the status quo, you almost have to justify yourself more and why. And it shouldn't be like that.
No.
But it's as though you've got to kind of do well, this is why this is why I think like that. And it's like that can be quite exhausting in itself.
It really is exhausting. You know, I mean, there's
Depends what it's about
at the moment that we, you know, that definitely resonates with.
Depends what it's about for me. Sometimes I will let myself get drawn into it. Other times I will just completely step away, because it's just I think it depends on the person, the way that the discussion's going. If it's somebody that's willing to have a debate, but we both respect each other,
conversation.
If it's one of those people that is, no, you're wrong, and I am going to drive my point home, there's no point really, because they're not willing to hear what you're saying. They just want to bait you. So it does depend on the conversation for me. I have got better at kind of going, that's entirely fine. I'm choosing to step away from the conversation. I never used to be. I used to get really passionate about it and go, no, you have to understand my point. Whereas now I accept it. Well, they don't accept me. I don't have to accept them. Or likewise, I want people to accept me because of who I am. So as a result, you also have to learn to accept other people for who they are. And as a consequence of that, sometimes you have to accept that they don't agree with the way that you think.
Very true.
It makes it interesting.
Yeah. And there's that huge values piece, isn't there? Because a lot of you going against the status quo, and I even hate using that term, against the status quo, make it look as though you're different and you're out there. You actually being independent of thought and ideas and creativity sometimes goes in line with your value set. And what sometimes gets me is when people go against that value set, which can be quite an exhausting piece.
Yeah, it's we've got some good comments in here as well. Nadia is talking about how they've sort of learn about how their identity on the outside is potentially different to the fact that they feel non-binary inside. And I think that is and they've put authenticity again. I think that's a really interesting link, actually, because we were talking about this in the Rebel Yell coaching call, weren't we, last week? And Nadia is saying that it feels like a real win when people are able to get their heads around the gender neutral pronouns and things like that. And I think there are still a lot of people out there who don't get that, and I I can only imagine what it's like as a gender non-conforming or non-binary person, making that choice between, do I explain to somebody and help them understand why this is so important, or do I just let live and kind of carry on and not engage in the conversation if it's it's people who are challenging it. Hey, no worries, Alison, it was lovely to see you on here. I hope you get well soon. So it must be similar to what we were saying about it must be a case of discerning whether that conversation, that energy you put into that conversation, is worth it or not, because there will be some naturally curious people who want to ask questions, genuinely want to find out. And MK's always said the same thing, it's great when people ask questions even if they're a bit clumsy, but there will also be a lot of people out there who still don't get this and are like, well, you're born a man or woman, so what's wrong with you, buck up with it. Or choose one or the other, even if you're transgender, just choose one, rather than you can't have everything, that kind of thing. Or just people who they just don't want to engage in that conversation, and it just must feel like a real battle to sort of decide who you have those conversations with and how much energy you put into it.
And also having that reality of, when somebody's trying to get used to that language of, mistakes will happen. I'll give a classic example. So MK, it was MK's girlfriend's birthday, and I sent them a lovely message, asked me to have a happy birthday dinner, and then I went, have a great day, ladies. And then the second I said that, I was like, oh, God, I've done it again. Yeah. And then she was like, no, we're actually giggling at this end. It's fine. I would rather somebody go, oh yeah, then go,
Yeah.
oh, and it's like, you know, because we're all learning and we're all kind of getting used to that language, but being comfortable enough and going back to that, I'm comfortable enough in my own skin to go, balls up there, sorry.
Yeah, I agree. At work, we've just rolled out asking people to add pronouns into their signature. And some people have come forward and asked the question around the reasoning for that. And some people have just
by the way.
have just presumed that it's because they want everybody to just provide their pronouns, but it's not. It's a piece for inclusion. So those that are going through the period of telling people that they are them or they, it's giving them the opportunity to add that in so that everybody's aware without actually having to spark the conversation of, I'm not he, I'm not she, I am them or they, please. So it kind of allows people that opportunity to put forward that that's what they prefer without having to put themselves in a position where it's potentially a difficult conversation. So that's something that we've all really jumped on board with, to kind of say, yeah, we fully support it, and we, you know, near enough everybody in our areas added it in.
There's
That's
a lot
really
of changes.
important.
There's a lot of changes to come with that, isn't there? So I was filling a form in to be a chaperone for Neve's dancing school and all the DBS and that. And when it went on the drop-down list, it went female, male, prefer not to say. And it's almost as though it's a dirty little secret, or prefer not to say. And I thought, you know, we've got such a long way to come where we actually change that language, where you're this or you're this, or shh,
yeah,
something else.
Well, MK has an interesting take on that as well, don't they? That, you know, because this whole LinkedIn pronouns thing is that, you know, becoming more popular now, and MK says that, you know, I think essentially that it's great to be able to have the option to do that, but actually it'd be even better if we lived in a world where that just wasn't necessary, and that sometimes actually the you know, people don't, you know, non-binary, gender non-conforming, so don't actually necessarily even want to have to do that. So it's definitely an individual choice thing, isn't it? Andrew's saying, isn't that so? I think in reference to, you know, who do you have the conversation with, who do you not? Isn't that due to their own ignorance, not to question, not to be tolerant, etc.? And yeah, Andrew, I agree. I also think there are, you know, people are able to change their perspectives, change their spots, if you like, and I suppose it's about discerning who do you have that conversation with, where you may be able to plant a seed for the future, where it may not feel like you've had any impact whatsoever, but it could be that if several seeds are planted over that person's, you know, lifetime, it might be that yours was the one that actually started to you know, add to that change.
But sometimes also, it's blind ignorance as well. You think that you're not ignorant to it, but actually, when you think about it, you've never educated yourself. So last year, when, you know, Black Lives Matter movement all came out, I realised I always counted myself as somebody who was not racist, but I also questioned how much have I actually done to educate myself, and I realised that actually I'd done no education at all. I just sat back and gone, well, I'm not racist, so it doesn't count. And I started to change the way that I think. I have started to push back on that now, and when I see people acting inappropriately, I will question it and say, right, I've also started to read on history that, I mean, the history in England around slavery, it was something we're not educated in schools about. And I'm educating myself. I've invested in books so that I can learn. And, you know, and meeting MK has opened up, you know, I'm able to speak to MK and ask really open questions, and they're fantastic at answering because they make me feel comfortable enough to be able to have that conversation. And it's brilliant because it's something that I really want to learn. So sometimes it is just that you think you're not ignorant, but then when you actually start to look at it, you realise that you've not educated yourself.
Yeah. Well, it's what you're exposed to as well, isn't it? And I just had a memory of I think it was 2010, went on a cruise with my mum and dad and my brother, because it was my dad's birthday. It was a real special one, and we were sat in this like jacuzzi thing on the deck with these two American fellas, me and my brother, and we were just chatting and, you know, sort of having, you know, small talk like you do. And one of these fellas was from a state in, you know, quite sort of deep south state, I would say. And he was, I don't know how we got onto it, but he was talking about, he started talking about Muslims, and he was saying, so he said, ended up saying something like, them Muslims, they'll all kill you, just you wait and see. And me and my brother were sat there so shocked by this, and the other dude, the other American guy, was really shocked by it as well. He was from New York, if I remember rightly. And you know, when you're just so taken aback by something, you have no idea how to deal with it, and then later on you're like, oh my god, I should have done this, that and the other. And I was saying, well, actually, you know, I work with a lot of people, a lot of Muslims in Bury Court, because I worked for it at the time, Bury Court Centre and various other locations. You know, there's a high population of Muslim people in those communities, and there's no issues, you know, a lot of them are my friends, and I can pretty much guarantee you that none of them intend to kill me or anybody within my white community.
But for me, it's
he was just
Muslim.
adamant. There was no, I mean, there was nobody in his town that was Muslim, and there was one black guy who had moved into the area and married one of the white women there, and nobody would talk to him. And he was absolutely adamant.
See, some of that's just a lack of diversity, isn't it? So
Yeah,
you've not got that social education.
Yeah.
But as
and
well,
he was such a lovely man, other than that, you know.
And it breeds fear, that lack of diversity breeds fear, because it's the unknown.
It's
so
the unknown.
It's the only exposure you have is what you read, which is never a true representation. So that unknown suddenly becomes, oh my god, that's a really frightening world.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if you go back to the 80s, when especially for me, because my dad was in the army and living near Warrington and Manchester, we had a lot of effect from the IRA. People didn't walk around and say all of the Irish are going to kill us. No, what we said was the IRA are an issue, but somehow society is attached that these extremists are classified as Muslims, and it's like, no,
I have a story about that.
Use that religion to hide behind, but actually it's nothing to do with Muslims, and it's just trying to get people to just stop. Yeah.
One of my colleagues that I used to work with was friends with what was the older lad's name that died in the Warrington bombing? I always get the names mixed up. There was
it was Jamie.
Yeah.
Was Jamie the youngest one? Was it?
I think so, possibly. The eldest one that died, Paul was actually with that group of lads that day with him, and he decided to go off in a different direction to go to Woolies, and that's when the bomb went off, when he'd separated, and he felt incredibly guilty. There was all sorts of stuff he told me about that he'd never spoken to anyone about, and then he said that the problem in the aftermath of that was that all the kids in his school then became very, very angry, as you can imagine, and very prejudiced around Irish people.
It was Jonathan Ball and Tim Parry.
Jonathan Ball. Tim Parry was the oldest, was he?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So there was one insightful teacher at the time. Remember, this was, you know, quite a number of years ago. It was what, 90s, was it?
Yeah, 90s.
And this teacher basically realised there was a problem and decided that they needed to organise an exchange with a group of kids from Ireland, and, you know, did wonders for helping, you know, but there was a whole generation there of kids in that area that could have grown up. And actually, some of them have grown up with real issues around that whole event. But, you know, sometimes it just takes one person to go, right, okay, I can see something here that's could be really dangerous for future. We need to nip it in the bud now.
Yeah.
What a tangent we love to
We love a tangent.
We're very good at this, aren't we? How are you doing, Dave, there with your
9 iron.
with your 9 do we know what was
I nearly said something, but I thought, no, best not.
about what? Your 9 iron?
I'm intrigued now.
I'll put
Is
it in the
it
chat
food?
later. Yeah, definitely food. Subway.
Definitely food, did you say?
I was going to say, that education process of unbiased, or is it unconscious bias?
Conscious bias, yeah.
So you
That's
deal
a
with it.
massive thing.
You must deal with unconscious bias sort of in E&D, or what do we call it, diversity and inclusion type trainings with the work that you do, do you? Is that something?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So for people who don't know what unconscious bias is, let's explain that to some peeps.
So you're in, let's say, Warrington City Centre.
Mm-hmm. City, Warrington City now.
Well, as you know, my geography is incredibly good, hence why I failed it. So you're in Warrington Town Centre, in the busiest shopping centre in there, and a young lad comes running past you and 2 people are following him. Chances are you probably think that he's nicked something, or he could be an undercover policeman chasing somebody else, he could just be running through, and that's what unconscious bias is. Yeah, that's what unconscious bias is, the process of your brain.
And it's things like we have, if we see a white van, we assume there's a fella of a certain age, a certain colour or look, and assume
White van man. We all do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. BMW drivers, all that kind of thing. There's actually this really great, you can do a test online. I think it's Harvard University published a test where you can actually figure out what your unconscious biases and preferences are, and it's quite scientifically done. So you sort of hit buttons with certain faces that you see, and it'll tell you what your biases are towards and away from. And I did it years ago, and I got weird biases where I had more a closer bias towards people with darker skin who were a little bit overweight and various other categories. I can't remember what they were. I remember somebody, and what tends to be the case is that whoever your primary caregivers were when you're young, that tends to affect your biases. A friend of mine, white, sort of in a white family and all of this kind of stuff, she weirdly got that she had unconscious biases towards Chinese people, very thin Chinese people, which she just couldn't figure out at all. The way we are wired is so fascinating.
We had when Neve was born, I mean she's 6 this year now, we had a role reversal, did Howard and I. Howard didn't work, he was doing an Open University degree. I worked and went back to work when Neve was 4 months old, because that's what worked out best for our family. And he used to take Neve to the little toddlers groups and stuff, and he'd be the only dad there. And one woman once came up to him and went, "Oh, it's a shame, isn't it?" I was like, "What?" She said, "Well, little Ellen must have lost her mum. She must have died when she was quite young." I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she couldn't get in her head that he had chosen to be the primary caregiver and chosen to take Neve to these groups. And then it was this whole thing, well, I think it's disgraceful that a mum doesn't want to do these things with a child. And it's just
bizarre, isn't it?
I mean, he thought it was completely hilarious. He was just like, "You never guess what I've been told today." And I was fuming. I was like, that's the reaction.
Andrew's putting in a good point about, is this not more stereotyping than bias? I think the two do overlap quite a lot. Unconscious bias is normally to do with our hardwiring that's come from our first formative years, particularly up to the age of 7, and a little bit beyond that as well, whereas stereotypes tend to be societal categories and patterns that we get, and we're perhaps a bit more conscious of those. Unconscious bias we're normally not conscious of at all, because it's unconscious bias, but they do absolutely overlap. Stereotypes can be can be created into unconscious bias if you pass it on to your kids, for example. So yeah, it's a good point. Weirdness.
I've got a couple of good stories about being a working mum.
Tell me.
So the first one is that the teachers at school presumed that Jacob's dad and I had separated because I was the only person to drop him off and pick him up, until Jacob corrected the teacher and said, no, my dad just works away, so he isn't able to drop me off and pick me up. And apparently Jacob said that the teacher's face was quite a picture when they realised, and even I got an apology for it.
Isn't that weird though, that we would now assume that in the society we're in, that we would assume that we've got, you know, sort of separated parents, as opposed to, you know, maybe however many years ago, a few decades ago, if you only ever saw one parent, you'd probably assume the other one had died.
As in Lisa.
Isn't it?
As in, I mean, I technically should be a Tracy now that, I don't care about my daughter enough to take her to a talk.
Yeah.
And the other one is...
Andrew, sorry, was saying, I think stereotypes, I had loads as a Bobby, but I was always right. That sounds like intuition and instinct as well to me, Andrew. And you probably get really primed with that as a copper as well, I'd imagine. Because you need it, don't you, to stay safe and all of those things.
Absolutely.
Sorry, go on, Trace.
Well, the other one was, and I suppose it feeds into what gives you the strength to break away from the status quo. My mother-in-law told my husband that I was a bad mum because I chose to work and that my place was at home.
Yeah.
And I didn't speak to her for over a year because of that.
Oh, it's so prickly.
But the thing that really annoyed me was, Rob and I have got a very modern relationship. Both of us really do break the status quo when it comes to societal norms. I was the breadwinner. I was one that made it possible for us to have a house. So it wasn't possible for me to stay at home and be a mum.
Yeah.
I had to go back to work. And I think it's changing more and more, but it was always presumed that the men would go out to work. Well, there was never any question. It wasn't an option for me. And to be honest with you, it wasn't an option I wanted. I wanted to go back to work. I wanted the career. My husband was more than welcome to stay at home, but he wanted to work. So it was a decision that we made together.
Yeah.
So when that came out, and it was only about two and a half years ago that it happened. It was, but I mean, luckily my husband fully supports me and we have a fantastic relationship, and he didn't even bat an eye when he proudly said that he was proud to be my husband and that he thought I was a wonderful mum and that she could go royally self.
Well, that answers Andrew's question of he's put bad mother-in-law. Did you slap her down?
Absolutely.
We've never spoken about it. I was told that I was not allowed because I'm very good at being very honest.
Yes. So, you know what? I massively admire that in you.
I mean, Howard keeps saying to me, when are you going to build your business up enough so I can give up work again and that I can stay home? He's eager for it. We've got a very modern relationship, and he's the same. He's very proud of what I do and everything that I do, that he's more than happy. He's such a hands-on dad. It's fantastic, because there's a line that I hate more than any other, and I challenge people on this line. When you speak to people, particularly, Andrew will probably stereotype in here, and men will go, I'm babysitting the kids this weekend.
Whoa! Your own kids? You're babysitting your own kids? Oh. Oh, God. Oh, here we go.
I really hate that expression.
It's annoying,
it's
is
vile.
it? You're a like full-on dad, aren't you? You're absolutely what a good dad represents. So that must really royally get on your tit end, as Rippers would say.
You can't babysit your own kid, otherwise I get paid for it.
Well, yeah.
That's what I've always said. How much to get paid?
Here's an interesting one. Jill Bloodworth is saying, I have a 9-year gap between my eldest 3 and youngest 2. Everyone always assumes the younger 2 are a result of a second marriage. Wow, isn't that odd? Just the conclusions people automatically draw on things. Andrew says, no, you're right, Lisa. Men do say that. My lad's 17. He's been with me since day one. Amazing.
We'll have to shoot.
Okay.
You got there,
See you later, guys. Have a great night. I'll
lovely.
catch you later. Bye for now.
We were very honoured there to see. I'm sure he just wanted to show off his new golf clubs, you know.
Probably.
Show off his swing. So
sorry, just to close off on that bit when going back to the status quo. It's so important to me to show my girls that life, that you can have what you want, you can do what you want, you can be strong, you can be determined, and you can have it all. Yes, it takes work, but you know what, girls, you go out there and you bloody get it.
What about the opposite way round then? So Tracy, you as a mum of a young man, what stereotypes and gender norms do you think are potential traps to fall into when you're mothering a boy or you're parenting a boy?
And they fall over and cut themselves and you're saying, stop being a girl.
Yeah.
Never say that.
Boys
Never
don't cry.
No, never say that. It's okay to cry. Yes, it hurts. It hurts everybody. We all hurt in the same way, regardless of what's between your legs. But one of the main things that, and I think Rob's found this really difficult, and I think it's not because he doesn't want our son to grow up to be what he wants. It's because of the way that we've been brought up. And I do think generation by generation, we do slowly change. But he was brought up by a very traditional, you open the door for the lady, you carry her bags, you pull her chair out. And don't get me wrong, I benefit from all that. But it was a man is a man and a woman is a woman. And that was just the way that he was raised. I mean, my father-in-law was a coal man, so very old-fashioned. Whereas Rob and I are very modern. So I'm raising Jacob to completely embrace whoever he is. So when he comes up to me and says, Mum, can I try your dress on? Absolutely, son, go for your life. Mum, what's that shade of lipstick? Can I wear it? Yes, you can. Mum, can we go shopping for nail varnish? Absolutely, go for your life. And then he ends up spending 20 quid on 50 colours of nail varnish. And I'm like, whatever, let's do it. And
That's a good bargain nail varnish.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's brilliant when your son's wearing your dress playing with the Spider-Man, because you kind of like, he's not being forced into this, into any hole to fit.
Yeah.
I'm completely saying, I'm like, so school do this thing where you're allowed to wear your own clothes when it's your birthday. And
I love that, wear your own clothes, like you're wearing someone else's the rest of the time.
But our next door neighbours go to Africa to visit Hallie's family, and they buy Jacob an outfit in African fabric.
Oh, wow.
And it's a little bit too small for him now, but he loves it and he's worn it every year since. And when he came downstairs, it was like the top was like up here and the trousers were now shorts. And I just looked at him and I went, is it what you want to wear? He said, yeah. And I said, then wear it.
Maybe with your sewing skills, you could sew him some extra panels
Yes.
and make it bigger.
Back on Friday, I'm getting a new one. She's also getting me reams of African fabric so that I can make lots of bags. She's already given me a bag full of African fabric, and it's so beautiful. I'm so lucky to live next door to something. Oh, it's just awesome.
Oh, I'd love that. It's from really stunning prints.
She said it's really good over there. They walk around with sewing machines on their shoulders and like, I want to make you an outfit. She said it's brilliant. They're just like, I was like,
oh, so cool.
How cool is that?
You know, I want to pick up on something we were saying about, you know, the and it's a shame Dave's not here actually for this, because I know we would have some input for this. Dave, if you're watching the rest of this on replay, put us some comments in. Maybe even do us a little live if you want. So this concept of being brought up in a traditional kind of patriarchal society, if you're a fella, to be, you know, open doors, pull out a chair, you know, the old-fashioned kind of how you treat a lady thing. Andrew's given you his measurements, by the way, for his next African outfit. You know, the us ladies, you know, we benefit from that kind of thing. but then we also want, you know, to be treated as an equal and independent and have our opinions considered, and all those things that strong women, like, you know, the principles you're teaching your girls, Lisa, we want all of those things as well. So how do we navigate that? Like, we want the old-fashioned guy, but we also want the modern guy blended together in a perfect combo. Is that too
I
much?
have him. I have him.
Oh,
I have mine.
can we clone him, please?
I think for me, take it away from being old-fashioned and everything else. I just think it's about good manners. I genuinely do think it's about manners, because if there's something wrong about me, regardless of gender or anything else, I will hold a door open for them. And, you know, I think it comes down to politeness and caring. So me and my husband have just been away this weekend, just the two of us. And it was so wonderful.
She's frozen.
A big bloody ugly boot on.
Oh,
So
you froze for a second.
Oh, I'm back.
You're back.
You're back.
You got a big ugly boot on.
I had a big bloody ugly boot on, so Howard was opening the doors and pulling out my chairs, but that's why he was doing it, because it was nice. And for me, it comes down to good manners, regardless of anything else, because I would hold the door open for somebody. I would say, let me get that, let me do that for you. With it being Howard's birthday this weekend, I was like, no, you sit down, I will do it. I want you to relax and everything. So I like to shift that thinking in my head away from tradition to just being a kind, good-mannered person.
Yeah, I like that. Nadia's saying they've got the combo man. I like the idea of combo man being a superhero that we all want in our life.
I think for me, is one of the things that Rob and I have really worked on together is him getting in touch with his emotions.
Right.
So he lost his dad the year before we met in not very nice circumstances, and it's only really recently that I realised how close to us meeting it was.
Oh, wow.
And he's never grieved.
Oh,
but
wow.
a lot of that comes from his mum's very shut down, don't talk about it.
Yeah.
So he was never given the opportunity to grieve. And I mean, they weren't together because she's married to Rob's stepdad, who basically raised him. But I've given him the support to be able to cry and it be okay to cry. And as a result of that, he's helped Jacob get in touch with his emotions and given him
modeling then.
And it's kind of that balance that he allows me to be the powerful woman I want to be, but I also empower him to be the sensitive man that he wants to be, and that it's okay to be upset and cry, that you don't have to be a man and get to it. And he's kind of learning to embrace that and be more emotional when he needs to be. We kind of support each other to be the people that we want to. So it's all about balance, isn't it?
It is. Andrew has said, I've taught my lad manners are free to be used for the benefit of anyone you're helping. Yes. That's spot on, isn't it?
I like that. That is spot on. Absolutely.
What about this whole football thing then, folks? So going back to this concept of, you know, being pressured to follow the crowd and all of that stuff, how have we felt about the footy? I know MK would have thoughts on this, and so would Dave. But, you know, I've been in the camp of, I don't really understand what's happening. What do we reckon about that?
Do you want my view?
Yes.
I'm really sorry they lost, but I couldn't give a shit. Hate football, not my thing. I think it's fantastic it brought the nation together, but do you know what? We lost. It's done. We've got a great team to go to the World Cup with, but the world carried on spinning today.
Yeah. So true. Ow, that's the second time I bashed my elbow. Elbow?
My elbow?
I bashed my elbow. Do you know what, Tracy? I'm kind of of the same opinion. I do think it has been beautifully timed. I think, you know, that was alerted to me by both the last leg on Friday, watching that, and MK as well themselves, that actually the timing of this whole thing has been absolutely wonderful.
Amazing.
But ultimately, it doesn't mean a lot to me. I did watch it yesterday, and part of the reason I watched it is because I wanted to kind of see if I would have any feelings on the matter. And interestingly enough, I did. And the reason I wanted test that is because when I was a teenager, I actually used to follow Man United, and I used to go and see them a lot. I used to actually go to Old Trafford a lot, and I absolutely loved it. I was actually obsessed with it. And I am so the opposite extreme now. I just sort of drifted away from it. So my Man United in my day was like Eric Cantona, Schmeichel Senior was the goalie, all of that kind of stuff, and Ryan Giggs, all those dudes. And it was a proper exciting time. So I just got swept up in it. I used to subscribe to the magazine and all that kind of shenanigans. And I used to get so passionate about it. And yesterday I thought, do you know what? I am going to watch it because I'm going to see if there's that old thing there. And I did get swept up in it a little bit, I must admit, much to my own disgust, because Dave's probably going to watch this and go, ha ha, I knew you would, kind of thing, which is just really annoying. And it, I get why people get into it, but what actually struck me was I felt really sorry for the guys.
Pressure and everything else was just...
those young lads doing the penalty. Oh my God, the pressure. And it just seems a little bit disproportionate to me.
See, I had a different view on why I was watching it, because, as you two ladies know very well, I'm a very sad individual. We've got a very sad life. So
you have not.
I looked at it from a leadership development point of view.
Oh, Lisa! I both love that.
Gareth Southgate, for me, his leadership skills, his style, his mannerism, how he's brought such a young team together. These lads back a few weeks ago, we're all playing against each other, and suddenly to bring them together in this massive team, and how he's been so composed. When I watch his interviews, it sends a tingle down my spine, because I'm like, you as a leader are pretty spot on. And to use him as a case study for defining kind of leadership development is just, and that's what amazed me about it. After the match yesterday, he literally went round every single one of those players, and it wasn't a cursory. It was properly. You will be okay.
Oh God, that gave me goosebumps too.
Yeah,
I saw him. One of the lads that missed, I saw him giving him a really fatherly, comforting kind of, it's okay, we love you kind of thing.
Yeah, and it will be okay. That's what drew me in. The result, would I like England to win? Yeah, it'd been great for the nation with everything we've been going through the past 18 months. But ultimately, not too fussed that we didn't win, because as you said, Tracy, we've got a great team going into next year. But it's that leadership style for me. It sent tingles.
But there's something in that as well, isn't there? Because he's been through the pain of that. He knows firsthand how horrendous that feels, and the effect it must have had on his mental health. Back in the day with his story, being able to then, and I'm sure he must recognise this, that the value of going through that pain has meant that he's able to support younger people. When he's in a privileged position to be able to do that for them, and I actually think that's a beautiful thing. And it was wonderful to be able to witness that, I must admit.
I think the one thing for me is that in my job, an old boss of mine said, just remember, nobody's going to die if you do something wrong. Yeah. And as long as you try, that's all we can ask. Mm-hmm. And I think that as a nation, we need to get our heads out of our asses and realise that these lads are playing a game of football. Nobody's going to die if they miss. Yeah. They tried their hardest. They tried harder than any of us could ever. But yet, the instant we lose, there are people that forget all that and give them abuse for it. And you're like, are you kidding me? They dedicate their lives to football, to please the fans. What we should be saying to them is, you tried your hardest. We support you. And don't worry, because next time we know you'll smash it out the park. But if you don't, it doesn't matter. Okay. Nobody's going to die.
Just as much as you were.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got
And
some
they're
good
kids,
comments
they're
here.
still kids at the end of the day.
Oh no, so
Well, do you know, it
wrong.
hit home to me last night, Tracy, because obviously Charlie's 19 and Saka, who took the 5 penalties, she said, Mum, she said, he's the same age as me. And I was like, she's still my baby girl. I still see her as my, and I was like, that lad is still a kid.
And wonder how his mum felt. Not being able to give him a cuddle.
Just the look on the faces, you know, it just.
And as a mum, it crucifies you because you want to protect your kid, and you and being at home, because she would have been watching. I mean, she might have been there, but watching it and not being able to grab hold of him and say, "I'm proud of you anyway. I'm proud of you anyway. Don't worry about it." As a mum, I felt that, and I was like, I want to give a shit. Yeah, I'm proud of you. You're wearing the England badge. You do it, lad. Yeah.
Nadia is saying that they rebelled and supported Italy last night in memory of their dad. That's lovely.
Oh, that's fab.
I think there's a clue there with the last name Martelli. Martelli. I love that. It's a really nice name. Andrew said, I've joked about it though. I think in this instance, the country needed a bit of coming together after the last 18 months. I fully agree, Andrew.
Yeah, agree.
It'll do them good. They won't do it again. Nadia is saying, go Southgate. He's great. Andrew, Tracy, tell that to the Colombian defender from the 80s. Hansen said, terrible error. He should be shot. He got back home and got shot dead. Wow.
Oh, Jesus.
That's
just a different world. It's a different world. Yeah, it's a different world.
Wow. God. Woo. Flipping heck. That was you know, when you start reading something, you're like, oh, I didn't know that was it was coming. Wow.
I take that back.
Oh my goodness. Well, we've run ever so slightly over time, which is our way. But that's because we have good stuff to talk about. Ladies, thank you so much. Thank you, Feathers, if you're watching this on a replay. Rebels, please do comment if you're watching this on replay. We'd love to have your thoughts. We would love to have your questions, because we are always we never ever fit everything in that we want to talk about in these things, because we're so good at talking. That is definitely our strength, isn't it? But please, if you have thoughts on what you would like us to discuss next month, then please let us know. And a massive thank you, guys, for your time this evening. I will take us offline. Bye, everybody. Let's wave. Bye.